Chapter 10. The people of the monarchy, of course, did not have bad dreams. Such was the nature of their never-ending bliss. They all woke refreshed every morning, having dreamt only of the honey-flavored tea and the purple-tinted sunsets and everything that made them happy. They had no idea what a nightmare even was. But Anne knew. Nightmares like the one where the mire bramble had overrun Emberfell, and the vines pulling everything in their path toward the Black Marsh. Or the one where the karst grew bigger and bigger before her eyes. From an early age, Anne found her nightmares told her what no one else knew about the Black Swamp. The karst was what fierce things feared encountering in their own nightmare. With Dreadwillow Ch on their right, Anne and Lais crept beneath the night's black canopy. Anne cast a glance towards Nine Towers. Was Janiah in her room this very minute, waiting for word in what Anne had discovered? Was she pleading with the queen to release Anne's father and choose someone else to serve her? Yes, Anne had faith the princess was honoring their bargain. Now Anne had to find the strength to hold up her end. The pair stopped at the entrance to the karst, framed by low-hanging dreadwillow branches. Lais was pale. Anne hadn't considered how the karst would affect him while he waited. He kept eyeing the marsh and dancing in place. It was as if he wanted to be afraid, but had no idea how. She pointed to a patch of grass across the road. "Why don't you wait over there?" she said. "Farther away." Lais didn't need to be told twice. He hugged the hourglass close to his chest and scurried to the clearing. Anne clenched her teeth. She was used to the karst's effects, but not immune. She nodded at Lais. 1 hour. Lais turned the hourglass upside down. Before she lost her nerve, Anne plunged into the karst. 1, 2, 3. She held her lantern out at arm's length. The bog was pitch black during the brightest of days. It hardly seemed possible it could be darker at night. And it wasn't darker. But it was creepier. 12, 13, 14. Every sound, the snapping of twigs beneath her feet, the breeze caressing the moss-laden tree branches, issued an ominous warning. Everything about this place had a single message: get out. It took all of Anne's concentration not to run from the karst back to Lais. She focused on the image of her mother's face, the one she summoned each night before bed. She imagined what it would be like to be reunited with her father. Both tricks gave her the power to walk forward, inch by inch. A twisted path of rounded earth served as the only way into the karst. On either side of the winding trail, vicious ponds the color of tar bubbled, spewing gray gas that mixed with the noxious mist all around. Anne held a damp cloth to her mouth to fend off the familiar stench of spoiled milk and olive juice. Fear coursed inside her like a ferocious summer gale, hot and relentless. She turned her head to listen hard for the singing. Yes, if she could just hear that song that filled her. But even that fervent wish couldn't distract her from the overwhelming urge to leave. Anne reached into her pocket and clutched the royal crest she received from Janiah. She drew strength from the thought that she was here on a mission from the princess. It wasn't enough. Retreating from the karst was more than an urge now. It was a need. Why did I think I could do this? She asked herself. She tried over and over to explore the karst. Entering in the name of the Queen Ascent hadn't changed anything. It hadn't made her any braver. The crest hadn't given her Janiah's immunity. She was doomed. No! She stopped alongside the hook-shaped rock, unable to pass the imagined barrier. She ground her teeth, pushing back with what little will remained. All these dark thoughts, they didn't belong to her. The karst was responsible. This isn't my despair, she reminded herself. This isn't my despair. Once she realized this, she held her ground for the very first time. She couldn't move forward past the rock, but she didn't have to run. Anne smiled grimly at the darkness. "Stalemate," she whispered. The slime ponds on either side of her path belched. Giant bubbles rose to the top of the mire and popped. Anne gripped the lantern tightly, preparing to use it as a weapon. She had to be ready for anything. She'd never seen the muck churn so violently. She watched as something short and bulbous emerged, as if forming from the mud itself. The imp-like creature that stepped onto the path appeared to be made of wet clay and weedy flotsam. head and body in one misshapen sphere. It resembled a toad, but was the size of a large dog. Its stubby, taloned feet, covered in black warts, pawed at the moist soil as it struggled to stand upright. It coughed repeatedly, the long, spindly arms on either side of its head flailing, until it spat a thick green liquid at Anne's feet. A second, identical imp surfaced and joined its partner to block Anne's exit. The white-hot fear inside her chest threatened to explode as the creatures approached. She'd never seen anything like these beasts before. They looked like monsters from a fairy tale. Both creatures gurgled and shook, their enormous eyes raking over every inch of Anne. "She does not belong here," the first imp said. Anne hadn't expected to hear the imps speak. She considered, if they could speak, they could also maybe sing? Perhaps she was sent, the second imp mused. "Yes," Anne said quickly, sensing an opportunity. "I was sent." "As food," the second imp finished as a gob of saliva tumbled over its jaw down its muddy chin. The pair waddled slowly toward Anne, who backed up until she tripped on a root. She held up the royal crest. "Look," she said. "See? Do you not know this?" The imps immediately stopped, their lips drawing back in surprise. "Oh," the first creature said, "the Highness." "Yes," Anne said with a sign of relief. "Princess Jania sent." "We have been expecting the Highness," the second creature said. It bent low in what Anne assumed was a bow. "We live to guide the Highness." "They think I'm the princess," Anne thought. Of the monarchy's spare laws, there was probably punishment for pretending to be royalty. But going to a dungeon would be welcome if breaking the law kept her from being eaten. She stood and squared her shoulders as she imagined the real princess must do all the time. "I come here seeking information about the Carse." The first creature's jowls quivered. "But of course, the Highness. Perup only lives to serve." Anne started at the name. She quickly composed herself when the imp eyed her suspiciously. "Perup," Anne repeated with a nod. She turned to the second creature. "And you? You must be Tally?" "Tally, the Highness," the second creature said with a croak. "Tally lives to serve and eat. Tally lives to eat and serve." It can't be, Anne thought. It was a coincidence, a very strange coincidence. "If you know who I am," Anne said coolly, "then you know I am not to be eaten." Both creatures shook their head vigorously, sending flecks of spittle and slime in every direction. "Oh, no, the Highness," Perup said. "Perup and Tally will guide and not eat." "But maybe eat later," Tally muttered. Perup thumped Tally behind the ear. "No, no eating, guiding." Then Perup waddled down the path. "Come, the Highness. Perup knows just what to show." Anne took a step forward, but no more. She tried to follow, but foreboding held her back with the strength of steel chains. Her jaw trembled as she fought, but the feeling was too strong. "I can't," she gasped. "I can't go in any deeper." Tally kicked at the ground. "Gots to pay the toll, she has, Highness or no." Anne's stomach fell. She hadn't thought to bring money. She pulled a tin brooch from her shirt. Her mother had made it for her. It had no monetary value, only that of a memory, but it was all she had to offer. "Will you take this?" she asked. Tally spat. "Ugh, shiny things? The Carse does not want shiny things." Perup tapped her foot impatiently. "The Highness is not knowing?" At first Anne was confused. The Carse does not want shiny things. How could the bog want anything? But then she knew it was true. The Carse planted thoughts of terror in her head. If it was possible for the Carse to give, surely it would also take. But what did it want? She thought of her previous visits to the Carse. The memory of how good it felt to pour out her grief roiled inside. Grief, later replaced with relief. Give and take. Sadness. The Carse wanted sadness. "I'm going to tell you a story," she said. "It's the story of a princess who was soon to become queen. You see, her mother was dying." Anne spun the story of Jania and her mother, being careful not to let on that she herself wasn't the princess. Anne described how Jania must have felt at the thought of losing her mother. It required little imagination. As Anne wove the sad tale, the creatures began to sway. They closed their eyes and lay on the ground, sighing contentedly. The sadder the story became, the more these creatures grinned with their terrible fat lips. They were enjoying it. They were feeding off the misery. Finishing the story, Anne came to understand something about the bog. Something she'd never known. The karst wasn't just a place that evoked sadness. It thrived on gloom. That was why she felt so welcome here when she came to cry. "The Highness is too good to peer up and tally," Peer-up said, sighing with satisfaction. And Anne realized she didn't feel terror anymore. Gingerly she took a single step past the hook-shaped rock, then another, and another. Nothing. No bone-chilling fear, no unrelenting desire to run. That was the secret to going in deeper. Sharing such profound misery had kept the effects of the karst at bay. Anne had to laugh. That made her the only person in Emberfell who could possibly complete Janiah's mission. She knew she had to leave the karst soon, or Laius would alert the princess. "I'll return," she said to Peer-up and Tally. "Will you guide me then?" "We will always guide the Highness," Peer-up said. With that, the twin creatures stepped from the path and disappeared back into the silty gray froth. Anne ran down the path back toward Emberfell. She felt renewed. For once in her life, that piece of her that was broken had proven useful. Her brokenness would be the key to giving Janiah what she needed and getting her father back, and maybe, just maybe, learning the truth about her mother. Her sadness was a currency. Here, Anne was wealthy. And that's the end of chapter 10.